Yeah.
So I'm not a golfer, and until like this year, I knew nothing about golf. Kyle, though, has Golf Channel on in the background all the time, like he's an 82-year-old man.
Okay.
Golf Channel and Weather Channel. So I've learned a little bit, and so I knew a little bit of the backstory about this new super golf league that is trying to get off the ground with major backing from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Main source of funding for this thing is the Public Investment Fund of Saudi, sovereign wealth fund that totals more than $400 billion. So there's been this divide in the golf community because this new upstart league is trying to throw a ton of cash at them and tell them, like, you know, try to lure the top players over, telling them you're going to get more money, you're going to have more rights, you're going to have more say. And so there's been a very interesting split in the golf community about who's willing to just like throw any principles to the side in pursuit of the cash and who, either because they're sort of invested in the PGA or because maybe they have a principle or two, is like, nah, that's not for me. So the big story that is making waves here has to do with Phil Mickelson. Let's go ahead and put this New York Times story there up on the screen. He praises Saudi-backed golf tour despite Khashoggi killing. So a biographer had an interview with Mickelson and asked him. Mickelson has been, you know, one of the top boosters of this Super Golf League and just sort of like, you know, shamelessly in it for the additional cash, even though he is already an extraordinarily wealthy person. And his comments were really quite something. This is from direct quote from the biographer. They say he didn't pretend to be excited about hitching his fortunes to Saudi Arabia, admitting that the Super Golf League was nothing more than what he called sports washing by a brutally repressive regime. Quote, "They're scary motherfuckers to get involved with," he said. "We know they killed Khashoggi and have a horrible record on human rights. They execute people over there for being gay. Knowing all of this, why would I even consider it? Because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reshape how the PGA Tour operates." So pretty remarkable. And in a way, I think it seems like this has sort of solidified most of the top golfers against the Super Golf League, because then, of course, a lot of pressure is put on all of them to basically take a stand on this thing. And so we've had more players come out and say, no, I'm sticking with the PGA ultimately. I'm going to throw it to Kyle, though, who is the expert. He did a whole segment on his channel, Secular Talk, breaking down what Mickelson's actual thinking and complaints are here, which goes way more into the weeds than what I know. Let's take a listen to what Kyle had to say.
So what's his gripe with the tour? Well, he thinks the players are getting screwed because he says, well, the media rights of the tour are owned by the tour, and so basically we're underpaid for the value that we bring in. That's the argument that he makes. Now, the way it actually works is the PGA Tour works like virtually every other pro sports league with a minor difference. Now, this minor difference does make the tour worse, in my opinion, but it is pretty much the only difference between the PGA Tour and other pro tours or pro leagues, sports leagues. About 55% of the money of the media rights goes to the players. 45% goes to the tour. It's about the same for other leagues. The difference is on the PGA Tour, you have independent contractors and not employees. So, you know, they make their own schedule and they're not technically employees, which, as you all know from previous segments we've covered, that means you don't have certain labor protections that you would have if you were categorized as an employee. If you're categorized as an employee, there are more perks and benefits that go along with that. I don't know what the situation is like on the PGA Tour with who gets health care and who doesn't, but, you know, Phil, worth $400 million, makes about $50 million a year, and he's complaining effectively that he's underpaid.
Yeah, it looks very clear to me this is a money grab. I mean, Phil Mickelson is a 100 millionaire many times over.
Now, what I did see is that apparently he has a big gambling problem, and so people are like, maybe he does actually need the money, but if you've got that kind of a gambling problem, of 10 or 20 or whatever extra million is not the answer. You know, working on yourself is probably the answer here. Rory McIlroy is another top golfer, was asked about Mickelson's comments. Let's go ahead and put that up on the screen. He says, "I don't want to kick someone while he's down, obviously, but I thought the comments were naive, selfish, egotistical, ignorant. It was just very surprising and disappointing, sad. I'm sure he's sitting at home sort of rethinking his position and where he goes from here." And I thought it was important, and you thought it was important to cover this because we've talked about where companies and NBA players,
LeBron James, and all
right,
those
have
other
been
people.
unwilling to criticize China because of their paychecks. And now you have a similar phenomena among some golfers, although now the majority of top golfers have overwhelmingly come out and said, no,
Right.
we're not going in this direction. And then, of course, the other piece of this is, guess who is angling for a piece of the action?
Yeah, who?
President Trump. Let's put this up on the screen. Trump Properties in talks to host lucrative Saudi golf events. And it says they're angling to host these events at his golf courses, according to 3 people familiar with the matter, potentially handing Trump a lucrative business partnership with an oppressive regime that he consistently defended as president. I forgot, they detailed in this article, I forgot that the PGA had pulled a couple events from his properties.
That's right.
So it's not just that he likes the Saudis. That was his first foreign trip overseas. He was very cozy with them, very restrained when it came to the Khashoggi killing, basically say, we'll never know what really happened. We know exactly what happened. But also there's sort of like potential revenge in it for him against the PGA, who had pulled 2 of their events from his properties. So
pretty
gotta get in the
disgusting
grip
to see
there.
the Trump business angle for the Saudi business, especially when Jared Kushner's out there shaking his hat out there for more Saudi money in his private investment group. Meanwhile, Trump's own Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin actually has received Saudi money. I cannot believe that we are even allowing this foreign regime, of which has exported terrorism here for many years, to then try and compete with the PGA by financing billions of dollars to take over this prestigious area of American sports, American life, all so that they continue their cultural influence in our country. Shame on Phil Mickelson for saying this and even playing footsie. Good for
he's
Rory.
done more than play footsie.
Yeah, I mean, even more so. And, good for the top golfers, including Rory, for coming out and shouting him down. I will confess, I do not know that much about golf and all that. And I have no doubt that the PGA certainly probably takes the lion's share of the profits, and that it is extremely unfair for the up-and-comers who are on the tour and all of that. That being said, doing business with the freaking Saudis is not the way to go.
Well, it's also funny because Mickelson sort of postures like, oh, he's just doing
standing up for the little guy.
He's standing up for the little guy.
Right.
But, the PGA has actually instituted some reforms that I won't get into the technical specifics of, but in response to the threat of this league, they have actually changed some of their policies, but the impact of those policy changes has just been to funnel even more money to the top players in the league, where, the guys who are like barely making it are struggling. They're sometimes going into debt. It's much more difficult for them. So their response has been just to throw more cash at players like Mickelson to try to keep them in the league, rather than addressing what are some of the real, issues here in terms of player rights and compensation and the volunteers who make these events go.
Personally, I think CFIUS, which is an arm of the U.S. Treasury, should ban this immediately and not allow any of this cash to even, come in here. It's ludicrous. It shows you how many of these people can be bought. There's no real heroes. It's disgusting, and hell no, good to the golfers in the community who are standing up.
Par for the course in terms of Trump as well.
That's good. Par for the course indeed.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.